Hey guys, Metal Jesus here. Today I am back with more awesome hidden gems for the Nintendo Wii. Let's take a look. Alright, we're going to start off strong with Pandora's Tower, a game that was ignored by a lot of gamers, myself included, because it was a very late release, and that's a shame because this game is awesome. So the premise of this game is very simple. You're trying to prevent your friend and fellow runaway from turning into a monster. Now, she's able to hold back the affliction by eating the flesh of slain monsters. She's not happy about it, but it does keep her alive and human. Now, your job as the hero of the story is to try to permanently cure her by letting her eat the flesh of bosses held up in these 13 towers that hold the world together. So that's the story and motivation in a nutshell, but basically your character engages in real-time combat with a sword or other weapons as it goes along, as well as this magical chain. This chain is so much fun. It's a very versatile item. You can stun enemies temporarily, you can chain two of them together, as well as climb up to new areas, retrieve hidden loot, and of course, get that all-important monster flesh. Each of these towers are interconnected, but they serve as their own unique level. And thankfully within those towers, there's a bunch of different enemy types that's going to prevent you from getting bored with combat. But really, it's the boss fights in this game that really stood out. Super fun, reminded me a little bit of Shadow of the Colossus a bit. Not as epic as that game, but your motivations are kind of the same. Alright, you trust me, right? I mean, after Kim Possible, What's the Switch, you know I can spot the hidden gems, right? Well, Generator Rex is one of those, believe it or not. As you can see here, it's a 3D platforming / action game, but it's based on a Cartoon Network TV show. But again, don't hold that against it. Now, I'll be honest, I've never seen the show, and honestly, I don't really care, and you don't have to play this game. They do cover the basics when you play it. I mean, it's got a story, but I don't really care about that stuff. What I do care about is the gameplay. And what's fun about this is that you can switch between different weapon types on the fly, and you're doing that a lot. So you have quick sword attacks, you have a stronger smash attack, and you even have like a distance attack with rocket launchers. But what I like about games like this is that the developers mix it up even more. So there's a level in here where you literally get these gigantic stomping boots where you can leap high into the air and you just cause all sorts of destruction. I mean, why not, right? This game has good graphics, great controls, and yes, it's actually really fun to play, so definitely check it out. The next game I want to talk about is Kamen Rider Dragon Knight. This is a 3D fighting game that also came out on the DS, but again, the Wii version is excellent. In this game, you can play as 13 different Kamen Riders. I guess taken from the Kamen Riders Dragon Knight TV series. Never seen it myself, but the characters look cool. Like most fighting games, every character that you play has their own special attacks, abilities, and finishing moves. However, what I like about this game is that the fighting is stripped down to make it more accessible. This is kind of a fighting game designed for novice or casual gamers, almost like me. I mean, I wouldn't recommend this to, say, my buddy Reggie, who, in my mind, is a hardcore fighting game fan. But for people like me who casually play this game, you know, we don't memorize a ton of moves, a ton of button combinations, this game's pretty awesome.
This'll be the end. Snip, snip.
So if you consider yourself more of a casual fighting game fan, or if you're looking for something a little bit more on the easier side, definitely check out Kamen Rider on the Wii. Next up is Gormiti, the Lords of Nature, another game I was very surprised about because looks like it might be a budget title, but actually this is by Konami and it feels very polished and is way better than what your initial impressions might suggest. Now, if you're like me, the name Gormiti doesn't sound familiar. Well, that could be because this is based on a highly rated Italian TV show. Gormiti is about 4 kids who possess elemental powers like water, air, forest, and earth, who use these powers as a group to help save the world. As you can see here from the gameplay footage, it plays like a standard platforming slash beat 'em up, but it has you switching characters all the time, both to solve specific level puzzles, but also because you gain more points if you pick up same colored gems, which are littered throughout the level. You'll also notice that this feels very much like a 2.5D platforming game. I mean, yes, there is some depth to the levels, but for the most part, you're going just left to right or right to left, which, as you know, a retro gamer myself, I really like. And as you see from the footage, you're almost always fighting. So if you love those old school beat 'em ups, this is gonna be your game. Next up is Shiren the Wanderer. Now this is technically the third Shiren game in the series. And what is this game like? Well, if you're unfamiliar with the series like I was, it's a randomly generated roguelike Japanese RPG. This is the kind of game that they don't really make that much anymore. You play as a group of wanderers that find themselves in a small village and then getting caught up in a local mystery to solve. And like in a lot of JRPGs, you meet some fun and interesting characters, but really this game is all about the dungeon crawling. That's the big appeal here. And like I mentioned previously, the dungeons are completely randomized and they're turn-based, meaning when you move, the monsters move. When you attack, they attack as well. But it is technically turn-based, so if you stop and go through the menu or you're planning your strategy, well again, the game is paused, so the monsters won't attack you, gives you time to think. Being that the dungeons in this game are randomly generated every single time you play, thankfully the auto map in this game is very useful as it shows you what you've discovered, where the enemies are when they pop up, where the loot is, and even where the exit is when you stumble upon it. Now I know this game is not the most attractive JRPG on the Wii, but I think the gameplay is unique and fun enough that I recommend you give it a go if you're looking for something a little different. And speaking of something a little different, here is Roogoo Twisted Towers. I just like saying Roogoo. So what is Roogoo Twisted Towers? Well, this game is a deceptively simple yet completely addictive puzzle game. Watching the footage here, notice that the blocks of different colors and shapes are falling from the top, and then you need to twist and rotate those platforms to allow the blocks to pass through. Then they build up at the bottom before the time runs out. I know this looks simple, right? But as you play through 100+ levels, the shapes start falling faster, the levels get less linear, and they even throw in some motion control stuff to keep you distracted. I enjoy a good puzzle game every now and then, and this is one that should not be missed if you own a Wii. Here's a game that's going to be a little bit controversial because I know that it's not perfect. It's called Calling. So what is this game all about? Well, it's a first-person survival horror game where the gimmick is that your Wii remote acts as a phone for the supernatural enemies to call you and taunt you.
I'm in the hallway on the first floor. I'm at the staircase landing on the second floor.
And as you see here from the footage, the game plays a lot like an adventure game where you spend a lot of time opening drawers, looking for items, looking for notes that advance the plot, etc. And I'll be upfront with you, this game uses a lot of motion controls, and for the most part, I think that they work okay, although sometimes they can get a bit finicky. Also, it is a bit too easy to get turned around and lost. I spent many minutes just wandering around going, what the heck do I do next? But the game does have some decent jump scares. I mean, it got me pretty good a couple times. It almost reminds me of the Fatal Frame series. It definitely has the same kind of look and vibe as those games. So while I know that this is not the best survival horror game on the Wii, it is an exclusive, so if you're a fan of the genre, definitely check it out. Next up is a game that surprised me. This is Heavy Fire Afghanistan. This is an on-rail shooter for the Wii, however it did come out on the PlayStation 3 and it supported the Move controllers, but for some reason I prefer the Wii controls, even though the graphics aren't quite as good. I think really the reason is that the Wii is a fantastic platform for on-rail shooters like this. In this game, like most on-rail shooters, you spend a lot of time just mowing down dudes, shooting a bunch of people. Also, ducking is a big part of this game. You'll see a little arrow that will point to the direction that you can duck, and that direction changes all the time, which I think keeps you on your toes a little bit. For me, right off the bat, this game feels very familiar to the arcade classic Time Crisis, and this game is fairly lengthy. It takes several hours to play through it just normally. And this game is notoriously difficult, so if you're a veteran of these on-rail shooters like I am, and you're looking for a little bit more challenge, definitely give this game a go. Alright guys, well that's a quick look at some hidden gems on the Nintendo Wii. Now if you didn't know already, this is actually my 4th video of hidden gems that I put out on the Wii. If you haven't seen those other videos, well I'll link to them up in the corner here. You know, it's funny to me, a lot of gamers think that the Wii is kind of a lame console full of shovelware, but as you can see, it's full of amazing games that you can play, and a lot of them are exclusive. Love to know down in your comments what you thought of this video, and if there's other Wii hidden gems that I need to know about, please let me know. Alright guys, thank you very much for watching, thank you for subscribing, and take care. At the end here, I want to do a quick little shout out to something that I'm not going to pretend is a hidden gem by any means, but it is something that people kind of forget about, and that is the Call of Duty games that came out on the Wii are surprisingly well made. Now, again, I'm not going to pretend like these are hidden gems. They're Call of Duty games. They've sold by the millions. However, because they use the Wii motion controls, they kind of stand alone as fantastic versions of these shooters. And so I'll typically recommend people at least try the Wii motion controls, especially if they're struggling with the thumbsticks to aim on the PlayStation or the Xbox. Now when they go over and try the Wii motion controls, suddenly it can feel very natural, especially if you get that Wii zapper and you're aiming like a real rifle. It's really cool. I would love to know what you guys think of playing Call of Duty on the Wii, and alright guys, thanks so much for watching and have a great day.